And we're starting now on the new Music Buddies podcast with Fishmans, basically. It's less people than before. And basically, it's because we're touching on
Hello.
Fishmans.
Ready to
Cool,
listen to the
Phallus.
podcast live.
Hey.
Just
He's
gonna
gonna,
listen.
Phallus is gonna join, but he's gonna listen to the podcast like silent.
Just gonna
And if he
listen.
wants to talk, I invite him to talk about the albums he has listened to.
I don't want.
I'm gonna make you talk about Long Season, if you want it or not.
It's good, but I don't want to talk about it. So I don't want to half-ass it. So I'm just gonna listen to it live.
Okay, so we're gonna talk about we're joined by, first of all, by Noah here.
Yeah.
By Soup, who I believe is alive.
Are we recording?
Yeah, we're already recording.
Oh, oops. Well,
Yeah.
I'll quiet down now. Have a nice one, everybody.
By Soup. Say hi, Soup.
No.
Okay. And by actually a really big fan of Fishmans, who actually hosts a server in honor of Fishmans called Mr. SilverShroud.
Yes, hello.
Who loves Ahead in Time too, I see.
Yeah, and it's a good game.
Yeah, it's a good. And Gabe is gonna join in Kucho Camp, basically. And so Fishman's joined. Okay, so they joined. Basically, the most important piece of Fishman's is Shinji Sato. Ever since the first release they had, the first single was Hikoki in 1991. They're a pretty old band, and I don't know. I'm sure Silver has listened to the single. It's a pretty good single for what it is. It's a good reggae inspired ska. I think it's 2 tracks if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah, the lead into. Okay, see.
Yeah, there's 2 songs on it. The former, Hikuki. This I don't know how it's pronounced. Hikoki. That's a good one. It's an interesting departure from the album equivalent. It's fun. It's like a ska upbeat thing. The B-side, Little Flapper, is an interesting Fishman's thing. It's definitely a hardcore thing, like deep thing, but Little Flapper is fun. I enjoy it.
Yeah, I love the title track too, and I also love the packaging. I saw pictures of it online. It's literally just a cardboard box cut in the shape of There are limited prints of this, and inside the sleeve there is the CD, and in some the 12-inch. And after this, they would release their first album, which is actually taken as their worst release, and I don't see why. I don't think it's that bad. I think it's good for what it is.
Just underrated is what it is.
Yeah, Chappie Don't Cry.
Yeah.
And Chappie Don't Cry, I mean, the thing that throws most people off is that it's a good record, but it has too many reggae segments to it that drag it.
Oh, that's what makes it good.
Well, a big part of Chappie Don't Cry is that it was produced by a man named Kazufumi Kodama. Kodama was he was essentially the guy that brought like dub and reggae to Japan. He is like the guy. He made a band called Mute Beat, who was arguably, at least in their active years, more popular than Fishman's was.
Yeah, they have an album called Flower in 87 that actually was a big influence on Shinji Sato. And
yeah, definitely.
I mean, basically the production makes this sound like the most cliche American reggae you can find. But I think that was the intention, first of all.
So, definitely.
Yeah, Hakaze is on the keyboards, and Kenichi Motegi is on the drums, and those two make this record sound how it sounds. Basically, to me, the standout tracks are the longest tracks, the second track and Future, which is 8 minutes long. I don't know why. This album has some of the happiest sounding riffs I have heard in Japanese music. I don't know how they achieved to make it. It's not a bad record. It has, for example, in songs like Go Go Club, it drags a little bit too much on the reggae sound, but
really,
I don't know. Yeah, to me that's the thing that makes it kind of forgettable for most people. but it's not forgettable in a bad way to me. It has its moments.
I see it. Yeah, there's like, okay, my personal favorite part of the album are the last 4 songs. That goes from like Inago Gatonduru to Piano. Those 4 songs can piano a little less, but like those 4 songs are a lot more ska than reggae in my opinion, and it's I don't know, probably Shibuya K is probably the best way to call them. I mean, personally, things like Inago ga Tonduru and Go Go Club are my favorites on the album, just because they're so upbeat, fun. Piano is also really pretty. Piano is a little more sparse, and it's a different direction for a Fishmans song to take, especially in such a early point in their career.
Actually, what is also kind of odd and adorable in a way is the fact that Sato sings on English for most of the part.
Yeah,
and that's kind of odd, his pronunciation, but it's kind of generic Japanese pronunciation of English. It's still kind of good. What do you think of the album, Noah? You said you like it a lot.
Oh, yeah, Chappie.
Mm.
Yeah, it's a good album.
What do you think about it, Soup? And
I would say it's probably their like if I rank the discography, I'll probably put it at the lowest. But it's not a bad album at all. Like there was like a lot of like fun moments, like as you guys said. I don't know.
Your mic sounds like you're in the other room.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So the thing I like about it, compared to their other albums, is the fact that there's more reggae in it. You can definitely see that, and sound. So.
And after this, they would release an EP called Corduroy's Mood.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that it's actually really good. I mean, I wouldn't call it a masterpiece, but it's pretty good. It has 4 songs. It's 15 minutes long. It's a pretty short EP. And for what it is, it's basically just straight up Shibuya K. Like, just you're out of the bag. And for what it is, for how short it is, it's really well executed. It's really well executed. I like it a lot. Yeah.
Well, like the thing with Corduroy's Mood. So okay, this Corduroy's Mood was the only like full length, but like the only project Fishmans endured self-producing. So like they didn't have a producer on Corduroy's Mood, and in my opinion, Corduroy's Mood is kind of what Chappie Don't Cry would have sounded like if they didn't have Kodama along.
Yeah, because they actually produced it themselves, didn't they?
Yeah. And a lot of the EP, I keep calling it an album. A lot of the EP is so they would actually take like self-inspiration from the EP going forward, which is self-evident when you look at their next record. But like Corduroy's Mood, I think the second song on Corduroy's Mood is the standout. I can't remember exactly what it's called, or how to pronounce it, but it's a very good EP. It's one of my favorite Fishmans releases. It's and at its length, 15 minutes, it's totally worth checking out, even if it's just like a short stop to be like, hey, why not? It's what is it? In the liner notes, they describe it as supposed to like evoke a feeling of winter and like not coldness, but like, you know, sitting inside next to a campfire with a coat on, you know, drinking hot chocolate.
Yeah, it's a pretty comfy listen. For what it is. I actually like the cover too. I mean, it's basically in Shinji Sato looks feminine. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the second track is also the standout to me. It's evident that we don't know how to pronounce Japanese, so we just go with the flow. So
I only have a couple memorized.
Yeah. I don't know. As you said, this would drag out for their next record. Like the influences that this has, especially on the final track. Yeah, because after this they would release their most odd release, because it's psychedelic, but with a lot of. It has elements from Orange for me, like from their after releases, like they would be elements from that, and actually a lot of influence from Chappie Don't Cry, and King Master George. It's their second proper album, and it's odd for what it is. It's good. It's good, and the first song like misleads you completely to me to what the album will be, because it straight up ends in a 9-second track, like all of a sudden, and you don't know what happened. It's to me it's their most inaccessible records. There is a lot of psychedelic sound to it.
I can see it.
And Sato still has like his own dub singing style, and this is produced by someone else, but Hiro Kubota, I think, who they changed labels, I think, in this release after Quarters Mood, and he produced. He basically was just experienced in producing film scores for anime in the 80s. And you can see that it has that kind of odd style, meant for TV, lo-fi sound, but mixed with proper production. I think that goes from their P, and I don't know. This is the point where Sato would straight up just compose all the songs, and it's a strange sound. This album, it has a bunch of short songs, like minute-long songs. It has a 30-second one at the middle, I think. And
got a 9-second one.
Yeah, that's at the end. And it's the 31 is named Hamburger, if I'm not mistaken, correct. Yeah. And
well, in fact, about King Master George is that Shinji Sato only owned 2 Fishmans CDs in his collection, and King Master George was one of them.
I mean, you can see why he likes the record so much. I mean, it's basically the one that he composed properly, entirely, just out of fun. And
we'll see. Okay, so King Master George. Okay, so it was produced by the Hiro Kubota guy. Believe it or not, he had actually done he did do the anime soundtrack, but he was primarily a guitarist more than anything. So this was like one of the first things he actually tackled production wise. And he was a very difficult person to work with. Reportedly, there was a single time that he actually requested the band to come in like the wee hours of the morning, like 1 or 2 a.m. As he was drunk, and essentially went, "Hey, yeah, we need to record something," and everybody's like, "Yeah, why are we here?" But no, there's it's very, very weird, experimental. It's scattered. You can tell the band was still trying to find its footing. That being said, I do still think that the album has a lot of great tracks on it. There's particularly the run from track 7 to track 11. Keep in mind all the songs on here are titled in Japanese.
Yeah, the track that has 100 on the name, I love that track. I don't know.
Yeah. That song in particular, so that one really likes to take a lot of inspiration from sunshine pop, of all things, like the 60s sunshine pop stuff. So that song was composed and first performed in 1991, so this is the year before this record came out. And it was actually created as a theme song for a television show called The 90 Days. That song in particular, you'll find actually holds a lot more resemblance to Corduroy's Mood than it does to the other songs present on King Master George. And so that's a really good song. Track 7 though is titled Nanteteno. That one is a very, very good song. That one's easily one of the better early era Fishmans songs, definitely. And then track 11 translates to Reindeer. And that's also a really good one because they experiment with jazz there even, which is really weird for Fishmans.
And then in this era, they went to their live performances, which they started to implement samplings on them. And you can see that this is the time when they just wanted to evolve their sound. This is the transition record to me, where they start
Yeah.
trying a bunch of different styles to see what they feel more happy with. And yeah, I mean, it's an odd lesson, but still, it's a good album. It doesn't like its experimentation doesn't take anything away from it. What do you think about it, Noah?
Yes. About Yo Yankees,
No, King Master George.
Master George. I'm not a huge fan of it. It doesn't feel focused enough like their other albums. All over the place. A bit too eclectic.
And basically, yeah, it's a lot. It has a lot of experimentation to it. I don't know. A bunch of people I met told me that this is their least favorite release because it's all over the place basically. And I can
It's all over the place, but it's got good stuff on it. Come on.
Yeah. What do you think?
I
about
do
it?
have an interesting bit of trivia, though. More useless trivia about the
Okay.
producer for this album.
Yeah.
Haruo Kubota.
Yeah.
His anime album. He did that in collaboration with Ryuichi Sakamoto, who's a fairly famous ambient Japanese guy.
Yeah.
Just a couple of years ago, Ryuichi Sakamoto did a live album, and the producer for that album was none other than Zach, who started producing for Fishmans.
Really? I didn't know
their
that.
next album. Yes.
Sweet.
Because Sakamoto actually, as I said, the producer here just was used to make film scores for anime on television, and you can see that aspect of the sound translates to King Master George in a way. And what do you think about King Master George? Soup?
I don't know, you guys were talking about like kind of the unpredictability of the album and kind of like how kind of that kind of turns off you guys, but I kind of love it for that, you know. It really doesn't, you know, point like yeah, it shows you like a bunch of sounds and like just throws them at you. And, you know, sometimes they're good, and, yeah. Sometimes they kind of suck, yeah.
After King Master George, they had a baby single in 1993, which is great. To me, is one of their most important singles because it has the song "Blue Summer," a live performance of it, and they kept going with the Shibuya K and the psychedelic sound, and
I think it's notable to mention they released Baby. That was a really good one. I think it's notable to mention Blue Summer was actually the first song they ever wrote. That was back in 1987. And before Baby, there was also Walkin'. Walkin' has a cool song on it that isn't available anywhere else. I think it's second track too, but that was also the first single their producer Zach produced for them, and Zach would then continue producing for the rest of their releases.
Yeah, and after that single, they would release their New Yankees Holiday album, which is actually at the same gets the same treatment as Chappie Don't Cry, and it still has the reggae sound to it, but it has a lot more psychedelic aspects to it. Some trip hop aspects of it too. I think it's one of their weakest releases, honestly. But it has their song "Running Man," which and they started to implement first more like the third track, "Smiling Day, Summer Holiday." There's a lot of songs in that style.
Smiling Day, Summer Holiday.
Yeah, where they start experimenting.
That would be Noah.
Where they start experimenting with production, and this is their second production that they produce themselves. The the song 1, 2, 3, 4 is one of my favorites from this album. Same with Walking. I guess the middle section until Walking, from Just Thing to Walking, is my favorite segment of the album. But yeah, I mean, I don't have much to say about it. To me, it's basically one of their weakest releases. And
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, there's much more to say. I love the cover with the monkey plushie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's the album cover was actually implemented. The monkey was implemented into their their music video for Baby. So yeah, the opening track Running Man's really cool, as well as Baby here. But I don't know, I'm not really a huge fan of this album. I think it's really cool. I think it has its moments, but I'm not really a huge fan of it. I think Smiley Day Summer Holiday on this record in particular is kind of weak, especially compared to some other renditions of it, in my opinion. Track 5's really cool. Track 7's pretty neat. Just Thing is great on this record, but it's very inaccessible, in a word. Walk In is really neat. I don't know. I wasn't really a big fan of the run from Just Thing to Walk In. I can see where you're coming from for it, but I don't know. I wasn't really a huge fan of it. But no, yeah, it's an interesting release.
What do you think about Noah?
Out of Fishman's first 3 albums, this one would probably be my favorite, even though I've got them all around the same level. I'd say this one's the strongest of the 3 just because it's got a lot more standouts than the other 2 albums. Like, I really like Smiling Days, Summer Holiday. I really like Icaretta Baby. And it's like, those songs, like, they don't compare to the live versions. The live versions are much better, but I do think that this album has a lot of standout tracks. Those are my thoughts.
I mean, yeah, it's a pretty... It has still a lot of experimentation, but in the wrong way. They still implement a lot of reggae sound to them.
Yeah.
But compared to Chappie Don't Cry, where the reggae sound dominated the album, this reggae sound tries to be mixed with psychedelic aspects, and that's what throws people off, I think. And
reggae doesn't bother me as much as the Shibuya K. Fishman's got better after they dropped or eased off of the Shibuya K. Yeah. Exactly.
What do you think about it, Soup?
Honestly, it might be my least favorite of the first 3 records. Just because, like, it's a much more refined version of, like, this kind of, like, reggae Shibuya K sound. But, I don't know, personally, to me, not much stood out. Except, like songs you guys were playing out, like, Baby, that shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
After this, they released the Go Round This World single, and
yeah, it's a good one.
It 4 songs for a single, which is,
yeah,
they have this trend to me, which they just release 4 songs for each single, and basically it's just different versions of the main song.
Well, yeah, that's a different that's actually a Japanese thing. A lot of different, it's called a maxi single. Maxi single is essentially a single with like 3 other songs that aren't really essential. But like I don't know if I really even agree with that.
What I gotta say is that this is these are the versions of the songs that I think should have been on New Yankees Holiday. The Smiling Day Summer Holiday, the Kick the Space Echo session, the 7-minute version, is the one that should have been on New Yankees Holiday. And
100%.
And if the entire album went to that style, it would have been great. But
yeah,
I mean, the Go Around This World, I prefer the Naked Funk mix, I think it's named. Yeah, it's 3 minutes, and the Future remix here is good too. and they go around.
Yeah.
I think that's the weakest of the single. They go.
I don't know. I really like Go Go Around This World. It's like the song itself. I think it's really good. Well, okay, so there's this. So believe it or not, Go Go Around This World has like 2 or 3 different versions that they would play live. There's this version that appears on the single, which is really cool, which starts with like a whistle noise, like a really quick whistle noise, and then there's a different live version I say live version because it usually comes up on live performances. You get a different version of it that starts with this weird repeating single, Izika Casino, repeated like 10 or 12 times. And then there's a different version that starts with a bass line, the boom 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 boom, that bit. But no, yeah, it's a really cool song in my opinion. It's I want the whistle noise in the beginning as like a text notification noise.
After the Go Go Around This World, they got the Melody single, and which is to me is one of my favorite Fishman singles. Just the Wedding Baby version on it.
Yeah.
And the melody. I mean, the 2 other tracks, the Japanese style track, I really don't care much about them. But the melody and the Wedding Baby renditions here are the ones that I prefer a lot.
Yeah.
And I just like the cover, which is Sato looking ominously. I don't know why.
I can see it. It's a decent single. I think Melody as a title track. So I think like Put Me Up on a Cross, I think this is the inferior version compared to the album equivalent. But and I don't know about Wedding Baby is pretty cool, but I don't know. I think personally the standout is the middle. Because track 2 is pretty cool, but track 3 is one of the better Fishman's deep cuts in my opinion. It's just like I don't know what you'd call it, like the synth effect there. It sounds like a howling noise. It's weird. But like I think that appears on, is it Oh Mountain that appears on their live album?
Yeah, I think
the version that's on. Yeah, the version that's on there is really good. But no, yeah, it's a cool single. It's definitely worth checking out again at a length of, what is it, 21, 22 minutes. I think, yeah, definitely. It's a lot closer to an EP than a single. I would definitely call it like an EP if I were given
it's
the opportunity.
Minutes long.
Yeah.
And after Melody, they released their 4th album, which to me they started becoming great. It's my first great favorite Fishman's record, Orange.
Yeah.
Orange has 9 tracks, and it has a bunch of my favorite Fishman tracks. I like the introduction, which is just 21 seconds of introduction. Yeah, and then it goes on to 2 of the most happy sounding. The riff on the third track, I love it a lot. I love the riff and the rhythm of it. My Life and Melody on this record are great. And Woofer Girl is amazing too to me. I love this record for how it shows that they still have the Shibuya-kei aspect to it, but there's a lot more psychedelic effect onto it, and I just love that. Yeah.
So yeah, and this is an interesting album for that, because this is Orange is definitely their closest they came to funk rock. There's a big meme in my server about Intro being like one of the better songs by Fishmans, but Intro really serves as a compliment to the second song, Kibun, which is, again, like you said, probably one of their better songs, one of the happiest things ever. Track 3, I think it's pronounced Wasara Shateo. Correct me if I'm wrong, but no, is it? Don't quote me on that, but no, track 3 is really good. It's one of their more rock things. Again, funk rock type stuff everywhere. My Life is okay. I think My Life is a nice song in the right what's the word I'm looking for? It's a nice song in the right like moment. I think it's a nice song when you have the correct emotion for it. I don't know. Melody again on this album is the best equivalent of it. It's one of the more groovy things Fishmans has ever put out, so it's a lot of fun. Along with the rest of this record. Track 6, I believe, translates to Way Home. track 6 is probably the best foreshadowing of their later career, which would be when they would, you know, transition to a more dream pop psychedelic sound. But track 7 is Kansha Odoroki, which is one of my favorite Fishmans songs, period. It's just so fun. It's another one of those, like, really groovy, really fun, really laid back songs that is, honest to God, I feel like that thing should have been like a anime OP. But and then track 8, Woofer Girl, there. Woofer Girl is a really good song. It was this is actually the only song on the album that wasn't written by Shinji Sato. It was actually written by Hakase. And I think, yeah, the hook, I don't know if you want to call it hook, but the breakdown on Woofer Girl is like just one of the best things on the record. The closing song is really, it's nice. The closing song has its moment, but no, yeah, Orange is definitely one of the first, yeah, like you said, great Fishmans records, definitely. And it's a transitional record. It's the last one they made on their label Media Remorse before they transferred over to Polydor. So it is a transitional album, but whilst being transitional, it has a lot of great stuff on it. And again, like you said, yeah, one of the better Fishmans releases, and one of their firsts when they were transcend into godhood.
And here, because here they started to use a mastering engineer, which helps their sound to have more refined aspect to it. Because the sound here is different to what they used to make. It's more you can feel the mixing as more properly as you would expect, like basically if you go based on King Master George. And I love the booklet on this album, just a bunch of pictures of variations of the cover, and I just love it. And Woofer Girl, to me, I mean, all the tracks here are good, and the intro, I mean, I can see why. I mean, it's just so catchy, the introduction. I have one problem, that many of the pressings of it have like some seconds of silence before the second track. And
that's gross.
Yeah, I love that they just go right into the second track instead of giving seconds of space to it. Yeah. What do you think about it, Noah?
Like you said, I think it's the first good Fishmans album. First one that's really enjoyable to listen to all the way through. Still not great. My sentiment on the Fishmans is they didn't become great until Mari Mari joined, but, you know, it's pretty good.
I mean, the guitar of Yoshinaga is pretty good. All the guitar here is the thing that makes me love this record. And, Sugar Yoshinaga actually was also in a band called Buffalo Daughter. That's also a really good band to look into. They're not a ton like Fishmans. They're a lot closer to something like Boredoms or like OOIOO, if you know those guys. But they have they have a collab, like the members have a collaboration with Sonic Youth members. And I love that. They have a record called Taiga. Taiga is an album that I love from OOYOO. Yeah. Uh-huh.
A ton of Buffalo Daughter members have collaborated with Fishmans over the years. Tons.
There are pictures of Sato with American like artists that I love because he just looks so out of place and with his little hat on.
Yeah, and it's notable. It's good that you mentioned Sugar Yoshinaga because it's notable that before this record came out, their guitarist Kensuke Ojima left the band. So this was like, and that's again a good tell for like, yeah, this was the beginning of a transition period for Fishmans. Kensuke Ojima previously being like a founding member of the band. Like, keep in mind, Yuzuru didn't even join up until like '88. And Hakase didn't join until 1990. So yeah, this was a transitional period for the group. This was like they hired Yoshinaga as a guitarist exclusively for this album. So, but no, yeah, it was, regardless of being transitional, Orange was definitely like a step up in quality for Fishmans, and it was one of the better, again, the beginning of their golden period.
Yeah. After one thing I like to clarify about Orange is that if you actually take a bunch of the aspects of the guitar, they really transition well to other Fishman records. And what do you think about it, Soup? Orange.
I don't know. I'm not really familiar with this album. I mean, like I have listened to it. Yeah, it is very much a transition period between this kind of like Shibuya Kai sound and kind of straight to like this like dream poppy progressive pop kind of thing. They're going on country camp, and yeah, I mean, it's good. I don't really have much to say.
Yeah,
But that's kind of why I've been quiet.
that's basically the conclusion most people have, is that this record is just good. But to me, it's more than that. It's for what it
I like it a lot, but it's just kind of like I don't know. I want to be familiar with it more. You know?
Even if you compare it to their other stuff, it's great to me. And
yeah.
After this, they would release their Old Mountain live album on 1995, and this is an okay live album. I don't like it that much compared to what they would release next. It has the baby piano mix, the 44 seconds of it, and a bunch of other songs like Oh Oregon, Thank You, Blue Summer. It has a rendition of Running Man that I like, and the title track, which is the first track, it's not the title track, but it's called Oh Crime. It's kind of nice. I mean, it's a nice live album. Nothing compared to what they would release in live material, but
O Mountain was really interesting for the group because it was actually the O Mountain tour was the first nationwide tour that Fishmans would go through. It was the first the first tour they would do, and O Mountain was a chronicle of that pretty much. And O Crime is an interesting track because this was a song Fishmans had been documented to be playing since about 1994. O Crime, or however you want to spell it, like O Crime, O Slime, I've seen those two frequently. O Crime is an interesting song because a lot of the time Fishmans would perform this as an opener for their live performances going forward, and pretty much every performance of O Crime or O Slime or whatever is different. Pretty much every performance of it is different. It's almost always interpret.
Even in the Otogachi release, it is the opener, the O Slime.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there is actually called O Slime, and here is O Crime.
And that being said, so that song is one of the only ones you'll see actually written. Writers' credits are not Sato's; they're Fishman's.
Yeah.
So you don't see, and it's always like a more, what's the word I'm looking for? It's like improvised on some level. And Fishmans would do that a lot of the time, especially going forward. They would create live dub mixes where they would remix their music instantly as they played it. So it was, O Crime is a really interesting thing to see. Kansha Odoroki on this live album is my favorite equivalent of that song, my favorite rendition of it. It's amazing. The middle of the album, I think, is where it shines. Everything from Thank You to...
The 7-minute song after Thank You? Yeah, I love that one.
Yeah, that one's great. Everything from Thank You to track 12, I think, is where the album shines the most. But yeah, it's definitely... of their weaker releases. It's the last one they made on Media Remorse. I said that previously about Orange, didn't I? But Orange is a studio, but O Mountain is the last thing they did on Media Remorse before they would transition over to Polydor. So it's pretty much this, O Mountain was kind of a farewell. It was kind of like a, yep, see ya. And it was also the last one they would record with their keyboardist, Takese-san, before he would take off. Then they would be a 3-piece for the rest of their active years.
Yeah, and that 3-piece lineup is the one that people know the most. And there are a bunch of credits on this live album, which will return actually later material, like from Minoru Yoko, Mari Nakasato, I think, is in this. and basically a bunch of artists from many around Japan, as you said. This was their first Japanese proper tour, and yeah, I mean it's to me it's okay for what it is, but it has some great segments to it. What do you think about it, Noah?
I think that I don't enjoy it very much. I mean, it's enjoyable. It's not a bad album by any means, but it falls so short compared to their other live albums. It's like after listening to something like 98, 12, 28 or 98, 12, 27, and you go back and listen to Old Mountain, it's just kind of meh.
Yeah, I get the feeling. Also, their other live albums are better than this, to be honest.
Yeah.
Maybe with the exception of Nogatsu Genjo.
Yeah, we'll get
Gatsu
to
no
that
Genjo.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think about it, Soup? Have you heard of this one?
No. Sorry.
It's all right.
Yeah, this one is a skippable part of their discography.
It's an interesting footnote, but it's not essential by any means.
Yeah. After this, they would release.
Again. Look up it. Okay. Yeah. You can keep going.
After this, they would release their Night Cruising single, which
That's
I
a
love.
good one.
Yeah, I love this one.
Yeah.
It's almost perfect. No, what the hell? It's perfect to me. The Fishmans are the producers, like actually the band itself. The second plasma mix of the track of Night Cruising is just amazing. I love this one to death.
Yeah.
What I love,
absolutely.
what I love the most is the fact that Sak is on the keyboards now, like their previous producer, which was just created, and Kinichi and Honsi is now on the piano, like because it's actually not just keyboards properly, just
and Hansi actually, believe it or not, Hansi did appear for one song on O Mountain. I believe she was on O Piano, but no, this would be the first proper Fishman's project Hansi would participate in the whole way.
Yeah, I love this single a lot. To me, it's definitely one of the I mean, for what it was going on, what the band was going for, this just captures the essence of what they were trying to aim, and they just straight up. There's no Shibuya-kei here. There's no reggae here. There's no fucking. There's none of that. This is basically just dream pop. They start becoming noise pop, dream pop, and psychedelic band, and I love that. You get Night Cruising is one of the most comfy listens you can have to any song that you have. Basically, I can marry this song and live happily ever after. Just, I love it all.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's it's a wonderful song. It was one of Fishman's most popular. It was their first after they transitioned to Polydor. It was also their first with their new guitarist Shinya Kogure. A lot of the time, people credit Michio Dark Sekiguchi as being their guitarist after the Polydor transition, but it's not him.
Kogure started becoming their guitarist, and he would be their guitarist for Kuchu Kampu. Yeah, he also had been a part of many weird projects like the Wow Wow Hippies and Rotting Heads. The Wow Wow Hippies is actually one of the rarest Japanese. If you can find a print of their albums. Because they just have a lot of shit released, but it's more underground, and basically the sound of the guitar. I mean, Hansi also Hansi would be a key member from this point on with the violin implementations on Kuchu Camp. I love how on Kuchu Camp, which we're not talking about. I love Kuchu Camp. First of all. To me, it's at the same level of Orange, but even superior in some aspects. I love Baby Blue. I love Sunny Blue. Baby Blue is one of my favorite Fishman tracks. Also, Slow Days is amazing. The production on here is just fantastic. And because Sak just doesn't produce now. He mixes. He's a recording engineer. He programs this shit, and it's just so fantastic. This album is one of my favorite. Straight up the bat. It's just one of my favorite dream pop records ever.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. Honestly, yeah.
No, yeah, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say like Zutto May, like that's like one of my favorite like openers out of their discography. Like,
Yeah.
honestly, one of my favorites ever.
Yeah, definitely.
It's such a catchy song. Ugh.
Kushu Kampu. This was a record. Of course, it translates to something in the air, I believe. Don't quote me on it. I don't speak Japanese, but but that was this was again their first. I emphasize labels. I emphasize labels so much. This is the first one on Polydor. It's the first of their Setagaya trilogy. It's the first record they would record in their new studio, Waikiki Beach. Sometimes you'll see it referred to as Hawaii Studio, but no. It was in Setagaya in Tokyo. They performed this entire thing there, and it's really, really, definitely one of their best modern records. And personally, Kushakampa took a little bit to click for me. At first, I listened to it the whole way through, and I was like, it's okay. Then I listened to it again, and there were like one or two songs that really stood out. The first ones that stood out for me were, of course, Night Cruising, Zutamai, the opener. Sunny Blue is also great. That's a jam. Track 7, Subrashitu Nice Choice. That's also a standout for me. That's like that's probably the best song on the album, just in my opinion. And this is a great record. This is the best contender, I would say, for if you wanted to call this like dub rock. This is probably the best example of dub rock out there, because it really there's just sampling all over this thing, and it's just so interesting to see.
Yeah, like after this point, like this is the record I would recommend anyone who wants to get to Fishmans. It's their most accessible to me. It's a lot of poppy. It has a poppier sound than their previous material. It's more accessible, but that's what makes it special. It's accessible in the good way. There's a lot of experimentation still. It's psychedelic, but at the same time, it has poppy elements to it. And from this point, like Kucho Camp, Long Season, and Oto Nippon have been material for hip-hop artists all over the place. Just, you will find elements from Kucho Camp and Oto Nippon in many hip-hop songs. And because it's that, like the melodies here are that upbeat, basically. Like Baby Blue is just an example of that, and the opener and the closers are just two of the most solid opener and closers I've heard ever from any Japanese release. And I love this record. What do you think of it, Noah?
There's wait, really quick, I just want to mention.
Okay, say.
There's.
Wow.
I apologize. I've heard this record referred to once as, imagine if Primal Scream's Screamadelica were released and nobody paid any attention. Like, I don't know if I really agree with it, because Screamadelica is a little more like, I don't know, blues rock, country stuff, but like, but I would definitely consider this like an untapped legendary record, like an unknown.
This is better than Screamadelica. I mean, Primal Scream has its aspects to it, but it gets a lot of more praising than it should. And I mean, this record, it's up there for dream pop releases. Yeah, what do you think about it, Noah?
I think Night Cruising alone merits it the status of masterpiece.
Night Cruising. It's so
exactly.
Yeah.
Osaki was a radio DJ in Japan, and he was a huge fan of Fishmans. He ended up writing a biography on Shinji Sato. He even did some vocals on Mari Mari's, some of her singles. Anyway, the first time he met Shinji, he described it as absolute bliss, because they were driving around Shibuya in one of Shinji's old cars, listening to Night Cruising at night. And he said it was a perfect moment until Shinji stopped the song midway through and switched it over to The Who's My Generation and started singing along.
I
that was funny.
I can't imagine Sato singing to a proper rock song. I would love I would have loved just a cover album of American songs by Fishmans. A bunch of
That would've been
Beatles
great.
and Rolling Stones. Yeah, it would be funny just because of the accent that Shinji Sato puts to the vocals.
And Shinji is a huge fan of a lot of American bands, especially the Beatles.
Mm.
Yeah, definitely. Well, yeah, and it was interesting. I think it's interesting to look into Shinji's taste because there's a really good Rate Your Music list actually about this. Shinji's personal physical collection of music. You see a lot of hip hop, like Dr. Dre,
Dr.
The
Dre,
Chronic.
Nothing But a G Thing.
Yeah, that's a good one. But no, you see a lot of that, like hip hop, like authentic Jamaican reggae artists. But no, yeah, it's interesting to look into.
Yeah.
Listens to Bob Marley once. Yeah, I listen to authentic reggae Jamaican artists.
What do you think of it, Soup?
I feel like that's like kind of very sad. Like my thoughts on it. It's a very yeah. I don't know. You guys kind of like. I agree with everything you guys say. Like I don't know how much I can have.
Basically, after at this point they started becoming like more solid with the records.
Yeah.
And after this, they would release basically Baby Blue as a single, which is odd releasing a single of Baby Blue after the song, the album that had Baby Blue, and
Yeah.
it has a mix of Sunny Blue. It has a mix of Sunny Blue that is nice. Yeah, I mean it's Baby Blue, just a single, and it's great. What more can you add to it?
Yeah, Baby Blue is an interesting single. I think it's one of their more popular in Japan. I think this one probably took the longest to click for me. On Kusha Camp, it's a quieter song. It's a lot more, on first glance you'll be like, that was pretty, I don't know what the word is, like pretty basic, pretty simple, but like
Mediocre.
yeah. But once you really get into it, it's like, hey, that's not that bad. This is, again, like I said, probably one of their more popular in Japan. The B-side, Sunny Blue, was remixed by a group called Hicksville, which was Shinya Kogure, one of his groups he was in. But no, it's an interesting single.
Yeah.
Again, probably better known as a footnote, but I don't know.
That's right. It's worth bringing up that Kuchu Camp is the highest rated, most well received Fishmans album in Japan.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, like there were a lot of polls there's actually a radio music list about it, but there are a lot of polls of the Japanese entire population favorite album, and Kuchu Camp almost always comes first. It's a beloved album in Japan, and you can see why. This is the start of the dream pop era, like a properly on Japan. I don't know. As you said, all these albums have a love for Japan, most of all, but in a musical way, and you can feel that kind of inclination. After and this is also I think this was the other album Shinji Sato had from Fishmans in his collection. Maybe if I'm not wrong. Yeah.
Yes, it is. It is, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can see how Sato loves this record a lot because a bunch of the songs here were performed live in most of the tours from Fishmans. After this, they would release the Season single, which is just great. I love the Season single, like, dude. And I Dub Fish here too is great. It's the longest of the two songs. It's 7 minutes, but Season here is amazing. I just love the 5-minute version of Season.
Yeah,
Six
season was a really cool release for Fishmans, because it's definitely, if you were to plop season onto Kushakamp, it would fit in very well. Season itself was another popular Japanese Fishman song. It was one of the more interesting singles, because again, Season and Eindub Fish are both like non-album singles, like songs. You don't see those anywhere else. So I would call Season a very an essential footnote would be a good way to put it. It's a very quick. I mean, again, it's a single song. Come on, it's interesting to hear in comparison with their next record, Long Season. I still have not located the statue on the front. Please contact me at SilverShroud #2877 on Discord if you find it out.
Yeah, it's pretty. I mean, this after this they would release the Long Season album, 1996. I think this is the album that went from underground to maybe legendary status on a lot of music sites. And with no, this is one of the best albums I've ever listened to. No joke, like proper studio dream pop, progressive pop, and neo psychedelic albums. This is one of my favorite albums of all time.
Definitely.
Just 5-part, one single track. Just amazing experience to listen to. Long Season. It's so filled with layers of experimentation and just sampling their own studio material. I just love that. I love the fact that it had there are 5 segments to it, as you all know, that make up a 35-minute track, and they will expand upon this. My favorite rendition of Long Season is the one on 1998-12-28. But for what it is, this is great, because just the segments where it's just the piano and the ambient sounds on the background is just relaxing. This album is relaxing. It's the most relaxing listen I can ever imagine. It needs this album leaves me with a happy feeling after I end up listening to it. I just love it. I just love this record.
And that's definitely Long Season was my first Fishmans release. Long Season was the first thing I had heard from them, and it was one of the. It was why I listened to them. Right, it was one of those things that I heard, and I was like, "Oh my, that is brilliant," and it is, because like Long Season is unlike a lot of things I've heard, because like, you know, when you think of one song albums, right, and there's a couple examples that come to mind. For me, Thick as a Brick by Jethro Tull is one of the first things that comes to mind. But like, especially outside of like dream pop, like this is never done. You know, like and especially when you think long songs, sometimes, or a lot of times, you get like, you know, jam tracks, right? You get things that aren't really well put together. It's just kind of a jam thing. For Long Season, this is a unique quality about it, is that it's a lot. I would say it's not like a rock song as much as it is a lot closer to like a classical piece. And it's definitely not classical music, but it's definitely got that same motive, that same idea behind it of creating a long and an opus. Yeah, it's like it's an epic, and I know the word epic's funny, but like it is an epic. It is a journey. It is an experience. Long Season is one of the more unique things, if not good, it's one of the more unique things you'll ever hear. If you ever check out Long Season, I would consider it the most essential Fishmans release. And it would be what is it? It would also be the first that Michio Dart's Sekiguchi would appear on, which is fun.
Yeah. And also, there are a lot of new members here that get a lot of layers into the instrument. Every time I listen to this, I find more and more things to it, and especially in the middle section, like from part 3 to part 5, I find a lot of more things with every new listen. I don't know. This is just an essential record for me if you want to get into like proper Japanese or dream pop music. And yeah, I mean, what else? What else is there to say? It has almost 10, almost like what 11,000 ratings on Radio Music. It has been spread all over the internet. This was a literally underground release, and then it just became massively like praised. What do you think
Yeah.
about it, Gabe, who just joined from Long Season?
Hi, people. Yeah, I'm only here for a little bit because I'm super tired. But Long Season is my favorite besides 98, 12, 28. My favorite Fishman's release so far. It was my second because I did do 98, 12, 28 first. I know that's like sacrilege.
Hey, no worries.
Long Season is, I think, Shroud kind of said it best, or I don't know which you want me to call you. Is that okay?
Yeah, it's cool. Silver,
Okay.
whatever.
Okay, so Silver said, it's kind of like an epic, and I can totally agree with that. It's a suite in every sense of the term. It's a 5-parter, like Cringe said, and everything just kind of flows, seamlessly. Everything feels cohesive. It is as it should be. My favorite part of the track actually comes in kind of early on. I know that's kind of weird in a 35-minute long piece, but the the little thing that happens right after, I think about 2.5 minutes in, that little section is just mind-blowing to me. I don't know how to describe it or like what to say that is. I still don't know what all the instruments on the track are. It sounds like a guitar. I don't know what it is. But that just blows my mind every time I listen to it. And that is my favorite Fishman's moment, I guess, so far, if you want to call it that. Shinji Sato's voice on this track is just astounding. He hits some vocal highs on this, and it really helped me realize just how incredible of a vocalist he is and how much control he has over his range without kind of faltering at all. And I think there are moments of this piece where everything kind of settles. It turns into a bit of a rumble, like a low rumble sort of, and then everything kind of rises back up. This is especially noticeable around the middle towards the end of the song, and it rises back up into this big giant explosion, and then it sort of collapses back down again. Things that are pieces, albums, whatever, anything that does that musically just strikes me immediately. I love things that do that. I love how they kind of hold this tightness, that it kind of falls down again and then it explodes. I love that. And I think Long Season is probably the best example of that, in my opinion. It's a 10 out of 10 for me. It took a long time for me to get up there. It was originally a 9 for me. But I can say now with entire honesty that this is a 10 out of 10 album. And I honestly recommend this to just about any music fan I can. Like, this is an essential listen, I would say.
Yeah. After
Definitely.
What do you think about it, Noah?
It's easily my favorite Fishman's album as well. 10 out of 10, masterpiece, and more importantly, it's got Mari Mari on it. So,
Yeah. Anything? And Phallus wants to say something about it. Miraculously, go ahead and say it. He's not talking. Okay, what do you think about it, Soup?
I don't know. Really, is there more to say? Like with a record that's like kind of has such a legacy, really a legacy, but just kind of this huge wave on it. And I personally love it. It's probably like my second favorite behind the my second favorite Fishman's album behind the next one we're going to talk about. Yeah, it's ethereal, I guess is the best way to describe it. It's just really kind of transports you.
Yeah. I mean, how I conclude to this is the fact that this is the lineup that is a legendary lineup. Like, all the pieces were into place. They had a bunch of artists that were invited to this release. Taiji Sato is on the album too, on some parts. He would be part of the São Paulo and Theater Brook bands. He like Michio Dart's Sekiguchi here is just fantastic. And I don't know, a bunch of guests started just becoming part of this epic track, if you want to say it, this epic collaboration. And this is just, the cover tells you a lot because it feels like a walk throughout a forest that is just dripping with sounds. And I love it. It's so calm, it's so accessible to me, but it's also psychedelic, and the passages through it's actually structured like a suite, as you said, Silver. Like, it has so many segments to it, and I adore this record. After this, they will release their fine. Okay, say it, Phallus.
Okay,
he finally
my
got
mic
his.
finally works. The only thing I wanted to say about Long Season is I have a friend who listens to hip hop exclusively and religiously. I remember some days ago, I was listening to Long Season on my AirPods, and he says, "Hey, pass me one over." I'm like, "It's not hip hop. I don't care." He pops it in. Like 20 minutes pass from Long Season, the AirPods die. He just takes it out and says, "Bro, what was that? What's the name of that? Long Season by Fishmans. That was good. That was really good." And so it's the only release so far that I've ever found that is not related to hip hop that he legitimately likes.
I mean,
That's what Long Season does, dude.
Long Season was sampled in a lot of underground. You can find it in a lot of South Coast hip hop releases. From that. Yeah, I don't want to misquote on any of the artists, but I've seen it a lot, especially Part 5. And this is just an album that I can't find anyone that hates it. Honestly, it's it's such a good listen.
So astounding. He said.
Also, you have AirPods. How gay is that? Come on, Gabe.
I have AirPods.
Come on, man.
I have AirPods. They're stained. They're old. They're scuffed. But I use them for hours a day. But that's not the point. The point is, this dude was like, it's I don't know. It doesn't sound like much, but it's really it's important for me because he listens to exclusively hip hop, hours on end, and this is the first record that isn't hip hop related that he legitimately liked. So I just thought that was really remarkable. And he said, if I'm not mistaken, this sounds like something you'd like to hear while on a bike, I think he said. And it's some insight by my friend. So yeah, it's an amazing record, and it's thought I'd share the little anecdote. But well, let me interrupt no further.
Okay. Then they would release their final studio album, which is also one of my second favorite album, like studio album release from Fishmans, and Ucho Nippon Setagaya. It's just the 12-minute Walking in the Rhythm version here. The Poka Poka and Weather Report would become one of the most legendary tracks from the band. And Poka Poka as an opener here is so good. It's just so... In the Flight, Magic Love, I cannot find a bad song here. The only thing that throws me back a bit is some of the production aspects to it. But anything besides that, I just love it. Honsi here just goes out on a rampage. She plays keyboards, violin, I think a little bit of a toy piano, a melodic, I don't know what else, but she plays a bunch of instruments on this record. And that's what makes this record more different than Long Season. It's more playful. It has more experimentation on the production side, but also on the instrumentation side. Like Poka Poka is, to me, is different to how they introduced all the other records. And I just love this record. I love it a lot, honestly.
Yeah, and Ucho Nippon Setagaya is their 7th final record. And I agree with you. What's up?
Final record.
Yeah. Well,
what about Izir's Echo? And Mari Mari, huh?
Very true. Very true. But no, yeah. Ucho Nippon Setagaya, yeah. This was an interesting release for them because I would personally consider it, okay, outside of Long Season, this is their definitive album. If you want to get into Fishmans proper, outside of... Because Long Season is a masterclass, but it's not what they usually do, right? Ucho Nippon Setagaya would be their definitive release, I think, because... And this is a weird take. I like to mention this to people. I think this album, the songs on it, deserve to be interpreted in pairs. So, 1 and 2, 3 and 4, etc. So, just because I believe, though, if you combine them like that, they share similar themes and styles. Like, I think, Poka Poka and Weather Report, these are the two first songs. Poka Poka is a beautiful introduction to the record. It's an amazing track. But Weather Report, in comparison, so Weather Report's my favorite Fishman song outside of Long Season. Weather Report's just, it's this Poka Poka is a quiet, beautiful song. Weather Report is a climax of just this amazing rock groove dub track. And that's an interesting aspect to bring up too, is that this is kind of their more dub side, their more ambient dub thing that they were building up to with Kushu Camp. And I think then something like Magic Love with a fifth track is kind of a callback to their earlier times with like, more, I don't know if reggae is the right word, but like, Shibuya K. It's a much more playful song than the rest of the songs here, which are definitely more meditative, more a quiet, more sparse release. And then you have, Bakubeat to track 6, Bakubeat to Ninokate, which is again a beautiful song, and another, and I would like to say, it's a centerpiece, but this album has a ton of centerpieces, if you were to say that. Weather Report, personally, I'm a huge fan of Ushiro Sugata. In the Flight is a very emotional piece for me, just personally, because I have a lot of personal, bullshit associated with that song. Then I have, and then of course track 7, Walking in the Rhythm, a beautiful, an opus by the band, 13 minutes long, 12:56. But the song Walking in the Rhythm was, going on from this point, the band's favorite composition to play like everywhere, right? It was, they would create live dubs of this, they would create singles entirely revolving around this song. So, but no, it was, Walking in the Rhythm is one of their favorite pieces, and then of course the closer, Daydream, which is one of the best Fishman songs as well. This is an amazing album. The title is actually Ushu Nippon Setagaya, Ushu translating to space. It's like a worldview, the Ushu meaning space. It's a view of Earth from the outside, so it's an observation of the Earth. And then Nippon translating to Japan, so it's like a view on culture or society around Fishmans. And then Setagaya, where they would record music, so it's like a inverted relationship towards themselves. So of course you have a lot of emotional, you have like a more poetic theme here for this record. Does the music match those monstrous poetic themes? Yes, and in fact I would say it's even more so than that. And I would believe Ushu Nippon Setagaya, personally, I mean, I even like it more in Long Season. This is a great record. It's through and through. I've heard from a friend that the record kind of suffers at times in terms of vocals, but I don't really get it, because
me neither. I mean, my only problems with it are the production on some tracks, especially the Walking in the Rhythm version here. But in the Weather Report, even though I love it, it has some. It's not a track that is easy to get into, basically. And at least to me, not in first listen, not in second listen. It took me 5 listen sessions of this record to get it into it a lot, but I ended up adoring it. I mean, I agree that the songs have pairs, like Poka Poka goes well with Weather Report. It's like a counterpart, like but even if you take it the individual songs, it has a lot of aspects to it. Poka Poka has a bunch of layers of instrumentation upon it, and in Walking in the Rhythm version and Daydream is just amazing next to In the Flight. I love this album a lot. What do you think about it, Noah?
I really like it. Probably my third favorite Fishman's album after Long Season and Kuchu Camp. I think it's probably the most overrated Fishman's album, but it's still enjoyable, with Walking in the Rhythm being a definite standout.
Yeah, it's really good. What do you think? I mean, to me, before I got into Fishmans, they had like 900 ratings on Radio Music, and 4chan made it popular because of two things: the long season song and the weather report, which is the if you almost stumble upon Fishmans by weather report, and I love that track. Even though it took me a long time to get it, I just adore the layers it has to it and kind of the ambient, the rocky sound it has. What do you think about it, Soup?
Yeah, this is my favorite album of theirs. Just there's just so many good like moments here. Like these songs, like although they don't play them, like you can really just get lost in them. Like Polka Polka and Weather Report, like those are just so like captivating. Even though like I think Weather Report's like 9 minutes long, and In the Flight, which I don't think anyone's brought up yet, that's probably one of my favorites on the band of all time.
Yeah.
It's like Shinji's vocal, it's just so.
Yeah.
Of course, you have like Walking in the Rhythm and also Magic Love, which is just kind of like a throwback to like this kind of like their reggae sound, but it's much more mature, and it's just such a great album. I'll stop myself now. But I talked about it for like 3 hours. Yeah.
After this, they would release the Walking in the Rhythm single, which is 34 minutes long. No, I think 30. I don't know, more than 35. I think, but it's a good single. But it's basically just a bunch of versions of Walking in the Rhythm, and I mean, the first one is a short version of it. It's for 4 tracks. And I prefer the third one, the Shinjuku version 2 mix. It's 14 minutes long, and I adore it. The others, I like half of what the Hand Glider mix did. I'm pretty I don't care much about the first one, the prototype mix, but the Rippers mix, the final one, I just basically don't care. I just care about Shinjuku version 2 mix and the Hand Glider mix. I think it's a good presentation of what the band tried to do with Walking in the Rhythm, like how they want to vary a lot of what they want to do. But yeah, I mean, I like it a lot.
Yeah, it's a good single. It's for me, I personally so Walking in the Rhythm is like so of course it's 4 remixes, but like it's not, in my opinion, as incoherent as that might sound or repetitive as that might sound.
No.
It's a Fishmans release, right? And Fishmans doesn't like doing that, right? They've never made they've never made a release of just, repetitive remixes. Walking in the Rhythm is a cohesive experience. You said earlier it's 37 minutes long. It's a long season type, in my opinion. It's an interesting, it's a cohesive, it's a coherent, it's a full experience. It's the prototype mix of Walking in the Rhythm here is actually the version of Walking in the Rhythm that got a music video. I believe it's also the version that they perform on their third live album. But no, yeah, and this is a Zach thing. This isn't a Fishmans thing, in my opinion. It's much more of a Zach thing. Zach, the producer of the band, was the remixer here.
Zach is creator, not as producer, but as remixer.
Yeah, and no, this is a Zach thing, and it's actually, believe it or not, the last thing Zach would do with the group. And going forward, they would actually pick up a different producer. His name is Ishiko Nishikawa. That's not like a huge deal. Keep in mind the band wouldn't really be active for many more months, but in 1998 they really wouldn't do a ton in terms of like album releases. They wouldn't really do a ton, but no, this is a good, in my opinion, a very good send off for Zach. Hang Glider mix, the second mix, is my personal favorite. I think Hang Glider Mix is very pretty. I think it's a really cool. But no, yeah, I would consider Walking in the Rhythm a great listen for people looking for like, you know, those underground, those second tier classic Fishmans releases. You know, I think it's a really cool gem to get into for people looking for more from Fishmans.
Have you listened to this, Noah?
Sorry, what?
Have you listened to the Walking in the Rhythm single?
I have at one point. I don't recall very much of it.
Yeah,
But, it is Walking in the Rhythm. Is one of my favorite Fishman's songs, but I can't remember finding any of the remixes all that memorable.
I can see that. I can see that's what throws people off. The fact that it's just 4 versions of the same song, basically.
Yeah.
But even if the versions have different elements to it, which Fishmans likes to do, even I wouldn't call it a full experience. I would call it a hardcore fan experience more than all. But yeah, I mean, after this they would release their other live album, Eight Gatsu no Genjo, I think. Yeah. And they also start with O Slime, not O. They changed the name of O Crime, and it's an interesting release. I like it. I think it's okay. The version of Weather Report here is definitely a standout next to Sunny Blue. It's to me, it's longer than it should be. That's what I'll say. It's longer than it should be. But for what it is, it's good. It's just okay. There's nothing so remarkable for me here. Besides the Weather Report, the Sunny Blue, and maybe the season and the final track performances.
Yeah, and I agree. It's definitely a lot longer than it needs to be. There are some cuts on it that are just kind of, I don't know. This is definitely my least favorite mainline Fishmans release. Just because, like, and it's good. It's got good moments on it. And I'm not gonna sit here and tell you it's bad, but like, you know, it's definitely got its moments, but it definitely doesn't. There's, like you said, Weather Report, Sunny Blue, great moments on the record, and this is an interesting release because this is one of 2 live albums they made that are actually studio live records, not actually just strictly live records. Studio live meaning like, okay, the material performed here is live, but a lot of it is very remixed in studio. A lot of it, like a lot of the sounds here are almost exclusive to the studio, you know, reworkings. But no, yeah, a lot of what's on here can be. It's interesting. It's got some interesting moments. Track 8 it translates to "It's Just a Feeling," which is an interesting song because you don't really hear it anywhere else because it's not on an album. It was one of Sato's last compositions. But no, that's an interesting song because this rendition of it is probably my least favorite because it just doesn't sound right, in my opinion. There are much better renditions of it. In 1999, they would release a compilation that it would appear on, which it sounds a lot better on. In 2007, they'd release a live video compilation where they'd do like a 17-minute long dub mix of it, which was like, this is one of Fishman's better things in my opinion. But no, it's an interesting record. Atorashihito, the last song, is a very, very good rendition of that song. Really nice. It's like 10 minutes long, but it's completely different from its original composition. Heishigatsu no Genjo is of course, it translates to the current situation in August. Keep in mind, Japanese do not have month names, so they just kind of call things the 8th month. But no, the current situation in August, Heishigatsu no Genjo, it's interesting. I wouldn't call it essential. It's weird. It's got moments on it. The version of Just Thing here was the version of Just Thing that got a music video. But no, yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah, and as Phallus is saying, and it's basically a Radiohead from the basement. It's just a band, and you can see it doesn't have a proper live aspect to it. It feels more like a studio recorded album without proper mixing. But yeah, I mean, it has its moments, but for what it is, it's okay. After this, have you listened to this, Noah?
Yeah, and definitely the weakest Fishmans live album. Probably, in my opinion, their weakest album overall. The only good thing about it is the album art.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Not crazy, but interesting the collage they do with the people, like making someone a little smaller than the rest. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
funny. Yeah.
yeah, I do like the
Um,
album art. It's cute.
After this, they would release the "In the Air" single, the "You're a Mickey in the Air," and this is one of my favorite Fishman tracks, like top five.
Mm,
The 13-minute version of this song is just fantastic. To me, it's just fantastic. I love it a lot. Honestly,
yeah.
I love it a lot. And
And yeah, just like a footnote, yeah, Yorameki actually it has a variation. It has a lot of different translations. My personal interpretation of the word Yorameki translates to flickering, but no, this is a single. This is the other thing Ishiko Nishikawa would produce for the group. This is the other thing. Yorameki in the Air being 13 minutes, a lot of time gets compared to Long Season in length, although I don't really think that's a fair comparison, because Walking in the Rhythm, as it appears on Ushu Nippon Setagaya, has a comparable length. But no, Yorameki in the Air is a really cool listen. It doesn't appear on an album, so it's absolutely, I would say, worth going out of your way to hear. This would be released in the same month as their final concert would be performed, and this is actually a track that has a fair amount of, believe it or not, a fair amount of conspiracy, because or surrounding it, a fair amount of theories surrounding it. Their producer for Chappie Don't Cry, Kazufumi Kodama, actually likes to postulate that the lyrical content on Yorameki in the Air actually refers to, and of course Sato would pass away not too long after this, but he actually says the lyrics here actually refer to the death of the artist. They actually refer to like that being a poetic thing, and he postulates that Sato may well have actually committed suicide. I don't know if I would go ahead and say, oh yeah, that makes sense, but because it really doesn't make sense to me. But no, he says that yeah, the lyrical content here is like that. But no, but outside of that, it's a very good listen. Absolutely essential, I would say, to the Fishmans catalog. As essential, I would say, to some of their more popular albums. It's definitely a very cool listen. It's really cool, especially as a last studio output for the group. It's
yeah.
really...
What do you think of it, Noah?
I like it. One of my favorite singles from Fishmans, probably.
After this, they would come to release their most famous, besides Long Season. It's taken up the most highest rated live album from Radio Music, and I love that because this is my favorite live album and one of my favorite records of all time. And I think for many people, 98, 12, 28, which was recorded in 1998 but was released in 1999, and this album is just, to me, it's perfection. It's 2 hours long. Has many of they would just reunite to perform a lot of their hits basically, and it has a 16-minute version of In the Air, a 42-minute version of Long Season that expands upon the studio version with a segment that is so good, and a bunch of a Walking in the Rhythm version in the Flight version. Thank You is a fantastic song. The O Slime is just it's just an amazing album. To me, this is just because Sato, in the middle of this concert, he says he wants to do more music. He says he wants to keep on rocking for a long time, and it's just this album is happiness to me. This album is just pure and genuine happiness. This album is magic. It doesn't matter if I don't understand the lyrics. This record speaks to me in melody. It's so I cry during Long Season, like no pussy joke. I cry during the performance of that song. like at the end of it, of the entire public just in silence and then just starting to clap. It's just fantastic. I love this album, and I can't stop listening to it. I revisit many of the songs. The Oslime opening, where the entire band goes, "Are we feel good?" and they present themselves. It's just fantastic. This album
absolutely.
It's an essential listen. It's
Yeah.
an essential listen for any music fan. Every song here, even if you don't like reggae, because reggae returns here in many of the tracks, because they perform. Basically, to listen to this album, you should listen to the entire discovery first. Even just the studio albums, even if you want to, but you have to listen to them, because to fully appreciate how much they have changed ever since 1991. And Smile and Day Summer Holiday has the best version here. The melody version here is the best in my opinion. The India and the Baby versions here are fantastic, and the Long Season version is my hands off the bag, maybe one of my favorite songs of all time. A candidate for my favorite song of all time. I adore this album with all my heart, because this album is just the most personal listen I can ever have to a record ever. The fact that Shinji Sato died little after recording this is just a sad experience, because I would like to imagine what I honestly think that if he had been alive, he would have kept on improving his sound and kept on releasing masterpieces after masterpieces. I adore this album with all my heart.
Yeah. And that's the biggest tragedy with Sato's passing, is that he was, in my opinion, on the cusp of his career. You know, he was on the beginning of, or not the beginning, but the peak, right, of his musical output. He was ripe to create, I would say, 1 to more albums of, like, you know, going forward, of just amazing material. There are parts of this release that foreshadow post-rock, you know, foreshadow all sorts of amazing things. And you know, that's the biggest tragedy of Sato's passing, is that he was on such an upward swing. Of course, so December 28th, 1998, a beautiful performance. It's just, no, this is my favorite album. This is my, you know, favorite, not in the Fishmans discography. This is my favorite album, period. This is, as Long Season as it is performed here, is not only the best song ever created, it is the best recording ever made. This is, in my humble opinion, the best thing ever created music-wise.
Just watching the video, because it was on Vimeo for a long time before it got taken down. Fuck. But I got to, you know, at first I if I ever got a physical version of this album, I would cry. It's the one that I seek the most. My ass is too poor to buy records every month even, but I would pay enough for this album, because the fact that this album got made is just an ode to music. Shinji Sato just gives his best performances vocally, and the section of Long Season where he goes in pa in the background, pa 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 pa, is just so good. It's just so, and there are elements of basically most of pop genres variation. There are elements of psychedelia in the air, elements of reggae evolving into some kind of alternative rock on the first tracks after Oslime. Experimentation with sampling is just amazing. In the Flight version here, I adore it. And Long Season here is the standout by far. But that doesn't diminish that the performances of all the songs here are just magical, and I love them. All of them. Just all of them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, personally, the first 3 songs on this album, 3 to 4, are just like, it's one of the best runs of their entire career. This is the type of album that will make you seek out more Fishmans live recordings. This is the type of album, you know, it's the type of album that when you come out of it, you're gonna be like, oh my god, that was one of the most elegant, beautiful things I've ever heard. If you have any patience at all for anything.
If you had the possibility to watch it, like just devote your
Oh,
entire
yeah.
attention to the video, you're gonna feel like the public. I this is one of the few releases I would go to the comments and say I would have loved to be there because it's just that good. At the end of
Oh,
long
yeah.
season, the audience is just silence. The audience
Mm-hmm.
is. You can see that in all of the tracks, they are kind of singing along. They are clapping. They are just they have interactions with the band. But in long season, from the part that would be the second section on the album on the studio release, here the public just goes silent.
Yeah.
And in the end,
And
the fact that it ends with the piano and it just goes silent is just fantastic. And you can see that you can feel the entire audience because they have witnessed music in its more pure way, and I adore it. I just adore this performance with all my
yes. And that's really just the best thing about this is how much you can tell that the crowd was and after long season concludes, you can listen, and if you have your volume up, you can hear Santo's voice echoing throughout the venue, echoing out right after the pianos end. And oh my god, I've heard this record described once by people who have like, there are low moments on this album, like some songs on the record that could be a little better. I've heard that described by somebody once as saying that about this album is equivalent to saying that the dark backdrop of a night sky on like in a city, the dark backdrop of the sky negates the beauty of the brilliantly lit skyscrapers. It's like, even if some parts of this record are a little less awe-striking than others, it all comes together and creates a beautiful experience that just I can't think of there being any moments on this record that I'm just like, that doesn't really hit. So because it all hits in my opinion.
The first time I listened to this album, when I got to Thank You, and Sato is just singing thank you for my life again and again in that short span of a song, it's just fantastic.
Yeah.
It's just fantastic. I love this album with all my heart. And people say it has low moments. People say, all the reggae elements of their previous albums are not as good. Man, if you listen to this, and if you're not perplexed about what this album means to your heart or to your ears, then I don't know what will make you feel sweet for just a moment. This album is just magical in a way because it makes you feel the melody and the passion that Sato had for its music. And it's an essential listen to anyone, but to me, you get more appreciation if you listen to their entire discography first. But if you just listen straight up to it, you cannot say it's a bad release. I've never met anyone that hates this album because it's impossible to hate such lovable sounds.
I do want to mention, you say that really, I just want to butt in really quick. I do want to mention, I've been counting. I know 2 people who dislike this record. They're one of how many people? Like 15 or 20 that have rated this release a 0.5 on Rate Your Music. But these 2 people. So the former, I'm surmising was fucking around because like the former, I asked him what was wrong with it, and he said, "I don't know. It's just bad music, right?" And the latter said it was boring and he didn't like Sato's voice. So I'm pretty sure that guy's opinion can just be discarded altogether. But no, it's just I can't imagine disliking this record. No way.
What do you have to say about it, Noah?
Well, to put it simply, I would fuck this album. Yeah, it's fantastic. I believe that there are no low points. It takes some of the weaker tracks from weaker Fishmans albums and it makes them into good songs.
Yeah, I can agree on that, and I was surprised because my listening experience with Fishmans was first I listened to Long Season, then I listened to Ucho Nippon properly, and then I listened to this. And when I revisited the Chappie and previous records, I was like, these are not the same songs. This can't be the same songs. I cannot see, and they do improve a lot, basically.
Yeah.
What do you have to say about it, Soup?
Like, I don't know, this is one of those records where it just, I don't know, like, there's so much going on here that, like, it's just like, it's a perfect record. It's a perfectly made, like, live album. And, yeah, it's one of my favorite anything of all time. It's just, like, even though it's 2 hours long, like, when I listen to this, it just breezes by every time. Like, and the actual like production here, that like the post live, like it like sounds so crisp. Like, I don't know, like when I was listening, it just really felt like I was kind of there in the audience. Yeah,
That's a good way of putting it.
I don't know. Yeah, Cringe was saying like about like how like he would comment like kind of like how he wanted to be there, and I don't know, like I feel like the album does such a good job at like putting me there myself that I don't know, that isn't really necessary, you know? Just
Yeah. After this is their most essential release, basically.
yeah.
After
sure.
this, they would release another live album for a reason that is 96/12/26, which is also long, but I think it's passed around because it's not Otokotachi, basically. And it's good. I'm not gonna say it's bad because it's not. Instead of opening with Old Slime, it opens with Old Crime, but it's basically just a dumbed down version of Otokodachi because it shows a lot of the ideas that would end up on Otokodachi, but in Otokodachi they're refined, but here it's a good record. I'm not gonna say it's bad because it isn't. But yeah, I mean I prefer the 98/12/28 versions. But yeah, it's still good. It's still a good record. I don't have much to say about it, even though I rated it an 8. Yeah.
I think 96 can be 96/12/26. I think it's a good album. I think it's got really good moments, and I think for somebody obviously coming out of 98/12/28, you're gonna want more. If you listen to it like the 50,000 times like I have, you know, you want more. 96/12/26 is the next logical step for that. You know, you have you know, it's a great performance. It's got great stuff on it. I think Go Go Around This World is really good. You know, of course, Non Tetano again is a great song. Of course, it has Long Season again. Long Season being really good still. I mean, trust me, it's a great song. I don't think it's as good as it is on 98/12/28, but I do think it's still a really great performance. Of course, there's other listens that are a lot more deep, like you know, 1997/12/12. Or 96/32, which was released on DVD. But you know, I think for a live album, 96/12/26 really hits the mark. I don't think it's perfect by any means. I don't think it's brilliant as hell like 98/12/28 is, but it's a good album. It's got great stuff on it.
I mean, one thing that you put up, the bootlegs of Fishmans are actually really good. Like those bootlegs are one of the best. Fishmans are one of the few bands that I can say that have a lot of great bootlegs. Like
definitely,
as you mentioned, I prefer 97/12/12, which is live in the Liquid Room, to this. It has a 12-minute version of Old Crime that I adore, and the season version here is great too, and the Weather Report too. I
think what's most notable about that release is the performance of, how do you pronounce it? I think it's Doyobi no Yoru, track 4. That one is particularly notable on this live recording, 1997/12/12, because literally they sample an Aphex Twin song on it.
Oh yeah.
And I don't think I need to say anything more on that front. You know what? Where'd that come from? You know, but it works perfectly, and it's amazing the way they do it. But no, yeah, it's great. That's a great performance, definitely.
Yeah. Have you listened to 96, Noah?
I have, and yeah, like other people said, it's not a bad album, but it's discount 98, 12, 28.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would never choose to listen to it over 98, 12, 28.
After this one, Sato died, and Fishmans disbanded. I think that the fact that Japanese people respect that much the members they collaborate with, it's something that I adore, because they paid proper respect to Sato releasing 98, 12, 28 as a farewell to the band. And yeah, I mean, I after this, they would also, members of the band would rejoice with the help of Cornelius, which was pretty odd, listening that Cornelius, a dude that is more known for the Shibuya K and almost hip hop elements he has to his material. Like, I don't know if any of you have heard Phantasma or Point, but yeah, they would release the project Fishmans Plus. They have 2 releases, which are passable. I mean, they're okay for what they are, but A Piece of Future and the live album are nothing compared to what Fishmans did properly. And yeah, they still perform today. I don't know why, but yeah, I mean,
Yeah, there's Fishmans, they nowadays they like to perform with different vocalists. Of course, since Sato is not around to do it anymore, they bring a lot of the time, believe it or not, drummer Kinishi Motegi likes to sub in for vocals. Some more prominent ones I've seen are people like Ikuko Harada. She's in a different band called Clambon. She's pretty cool. I also really liked, I believe, I can't remember what performance this was, but a man named Shunho Sai subbed in for vocals once. He was in a band called Bonobos, which I think is a really cool next step for people that really want to listen to more bands that are like Fishmans, because Bonobos had an album called Elect Lyric, which is really cool. But Shunho Sai has vocals that are near identical to Sato's. It's almost scary. He's very close to like, honest to God, if he were to become the next Fishman's writer, I wouldn't mind it one bit. Writer because he has great music, vocalist because he's a great vocalist. But no, if Fishman's were to pull a Manic Street Preachers and replace their equivalent of Richie Edwards and go ahead and make more music, then I'd be like, oh yeah, that, great stuff. But no, Shunho Sai is a great vocalist. Ikuko Harada is a great vocalist too. Motegi's cool. But no, for their more modern performance, of course, you have the DVD of Long Season Review, which was their reunion concert, because they dropped off from 1999 to 2005. 2005 they did that, and they also they released that in 2006. Then in 2011 they did another concert. 2011 they did another concert to support the founding of their memorial band called Fishmans Plus. And that was a really cool concert just to hear posthumously, I don't know if that's the right word.
Posthumously.
There you go, yeah. But that's a really cool concert to hear, because that's a decent performance in part. You have a lot of decent, cool songs on there if you want to skim around through it. But then they have another. Fishmans Plus has an EP they released in 2012 called A Piece of Future. Yeah. Was it 2012?
Yeah, 2012.
But yeah, and that's a really cool EP, because A Piece of Future is a Sato composition that never landed on an album. The only performances that landed on albums were the live album Increased Memory from 2000. It was like a DVD. And there was also a compilation from 2005 that had a live performance of it on it. But that EP has 6 different remixes of A Piece of Future, all of which are very transformative of the original work. So it's not exactly
I mean, for me,
as repetitive.
it's okay for what it is. I like some of the mixes, but yeah, I mean, it's evident that they're gonna keep on doing enjoyable stuff, but it's nothing compared to what Sato would have done with the band. And yeah, I mean, it's interesting to know that they plan on release records, but they haven't done for a long time. So yeah, I mean, we'll see where the band goes next, and that's the end of Fishmans. Yeah, this has been the shortest podcast yet, mainly because of the lack of people who would like to join because they haven't properly listened. Because everyone has listened to a long season and Tokudachi, but not their entire discography properly.
Right.
Which is a disgrace because all their discography, each of their albums at least have 1 or 2 tracks that are great. And yeah. I mean, they're a band that will live on. Shinji Sato will live on. And thank you for listening to Music Buddies. You can join in the SilverShroud's Discord of Fishmans if you're interested in that. He has a good management on it. Noah's
I tried my best.
Yeah, Noah's a mod there. He has a love for Jesus is King and Kanye West in general. And
yes, yes, indeed.
And
Noah really likes Kanye.
Yeah, I mean, if you enjoy Fishmans, that's great because we all do, and it's a band that any music fan should listen to at least once in their lives. So thank you for joining in, and goodbye.
Oh.